Hello, my fifth graders. Welcome to today. Today we're actually going in order, so it's 6.7. Can you believe it? I think for the rest of this chapter we go in order. 6.7 is add and subtract and mix numbers. Now a mixed number is not a fraction. It is a whole number and a fraction, so it's combining both of those. So when we add or subtract mixed numbers, we're almost going to deal with each of those sections separately. Now there is a strategy of where you make both fractions into improper fractions, add them, and then do what you need to do to make them back to mixed number. But it kind of depends on the fraction. So our steps are algorithm for adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Let's start with the example 1 4/5 plus 2 1/10. Okay, so that's the example the book gives us, 1 4/5 plus 2 1/10. Now step 1, we need a common denominator. That's going to be our very first step, pretty much, I want to say for this entire chapter. Step 1 is to get those common denominators. I'm going to kind of ignore the whole number for the moment and just focus on the fraction, because the fraction are what kind of makes it hard. To find a common denominator, we use equivalent fractions. You'll notice that this looks similar to what we did yesterday, because it is. Right? To add and subtract fractions is the same thing as mixed numbers. The only thing different is we're adding those whole numbers in. So step 1 is the common denominator. Step 2. So let's go ahead and do that. With 5 and 10, the least common denominator is going to be 10. 10 times 1 is 10. 1 times 1 is 1. 5 times 2 is 10. 4 times 2 is 8. Step 1, common denominator. Done. Step 2. Add or subtract numerator. So 8 plus 1 is 9. My denominator is never added or subtracted. It stays 9 out of the 10 pieces. That's what that means. It's not 9 out of the 20 pieces now that I've added the fractions together. It's not like I took two groups and suddenly they became smaller. This is 8 out of the 10. This is 1 out of the 10. So I have 9 out of 10. Okay? Add or subtract the numerators. That's step 2. Now, yesterday, step 3 was to simplify. I'm going to go ahead and put that here. Step 3, simplify. And guess what? 9/10 is simplified because 9 is 1 away from 10. And whenever the numerator is 1 less than the denominator, it's always simplified 100% of the time. I know, I kind of think that's cool. I love math. I know, I'm sorry. Okay, step 4. Add or subtract, made it this time, whole number. I'm 90% sure today you're not going to need to borrow or regroup, whatever you want to call it, from the ones to give it to the fraction. I'm like, you shouldn't have to do that today. Today's merely about being introduced to adding and subtracting mixed numbers. So I've dealt with the fraction. 1 through 3 is dealing with the fraction. Step 4 is adding the whole numbers. Now I know it's hard. 1 plus 2, 3. And that's my final answer. Step 1, find that common denominator. Step 2, make the equivalent fractions. That kind of goes with step 1. Step 2, add or subtract the numerators, then simplify. Then you're going to add or subtract the whole number. Now, here's the thing. Just like in life, sometimes the bottom fraction is bigger than the top fraction, and then you have to borrow from here to give to this place value and blah, 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 blah. Hopefully that's not today. I think it's tomorrow. unfortunately. I think I might just do 2 days of adding, subtracting, mixed numbers. All right, let's do some example problems, a few of those, and then I will see you in class. Or Ms. Grum will see you in class. Whoever your teacher is, we'll see you in class. Oh, okay. Our next problem is 4 and 5, 6, and they still like to write it side by side, and I still like to rewrite it one on top of the other because I really like to use this side to make my my fractions. Minus 2 3/4, and the biggest thing, y'all, pay attention to whether you're adding or subtracting. All right, so here we go. I've got 4 and 6. My common denominator would be 24, but it's not my least common denominator. My least common denominator is 12. Could I use 24? Absolutely. Absolutely, you can use 24, but you will simplify. So 6 times 2 is 12. 5 times 2 is 10. 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 3 is 9. Step 1, make the common denominator and the fractions. Step 2, subtract or add the numerators. So now I'm going to pay attention that it's subtraction. 10 minus 9 is 1. My denominator doesn't change. Step 1, step 2, step 3 is to simplify. 1/12 is simplified. Step 4 is to deal with the whole numbers. So 4 minus 2 is 2 and 1/12, and that's my final answer. All right, let's do one more where it's addition so you can still see that it's the same process over and over and over again. We're going to say 3 and 3/4 plus 4 and 7/10. Oh, I do not like that color, y'all. I don't know why I say. So let's go back with blue. 3 and 3/4 plus 4 and 7/10. Okay, so now I've got the denominator. Step 1 is to make a common denominator. So I've got 4 and 10. Common denominator is 40, but is there anything smaller? So is there a multiple of 4 that ends in a 0, basically, right? Because that's what I need for a 10. And there's 20. So I'm going to make both of these fractions become 20ths. 10 times 2 is 20. 7 times 2 is 14. 4 times 5 is 23. Times 5 is 15. So 15 plus 14 is 29 20ths. Now, one thing you should notice right away is that Ned is bigger than his donkey. 29 is larger than the denominator, which makes it improper. So I do need to simplify. And in my mind, I think, how many 20s are in 29? Well, there's 1 20 with 9 of the 20s remaining. You need to go back to that day's work. You absolutely can. But how many 20s are in 29? 1 20 with 9 of the 20s remaining. Now I can add my whole numbers. 3 plus 4 is 7, plus 1 is 8. So my final answer is 8 and 9/20. So when your fractions become a mixed number or become improper, you have to make it into a mixed number, you then need to add all of those whole numbers. All right, you guys, we'll be practicing more of this in class, but make sure you have your notes ready to show your teacher.